Alright, so what's the date?
The 5th. My birthday!
November 5th, Molly Lance's birthday. Hey, happy birthday, Molly. Alright, so we left off talking about the rise of fascism in Europe, in Germany and Italy. And the reason for that is because the Treaty of Versailles left Germany without much. And Italy feels the same way, even though they were a winning team, so to speak. They didn't get much out of the Treaty of Versailles. So when economic hardships and ruin come to Germany and Italy, they both turn to dictators. And that's kind of easy to see, that if you have no other choice, you have no other options, a dictator looks pretty good, especially when they make huge promises of fixing everything. Yeah, so we're going to fix it. So we looked at this idea of extreme nationalism, this One Direction concert here where everybody's going crazy for Adolf Hitler, and we looked at propaganda. Propaganda is all about changing people's minds, getting you to believe that this is the right way to go. And of course, so there's a sort of a national hysteria that's following this thing. Adolf Hitler is also using his military might, because the Germans are traditionally very militaristic in their outlook on things. And so to rebuild the German army is a great thing. So here's Adolf Hitler walking his way through the crowd up to, I guess, the podium here where he will address tens of thousands of people. Maybe hundreds of thousands, I don't know. And obviously he's in uniform. Side note to history. In the wake of fascism in Europe, we changed the way we do the Pledge of Allegiance. We used to do the pledge this way. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And when we saw the Nazis doing that, we changed it to putting our hand over our heart to pledge that way. We also changed our coinage. This is a 1935 dime. What's on the dime? A fosh. A fosh is the symbol of, the old Roman symbol of authority and power. That symbol, though, is still in Congress. If you ever watch the State of the Union address in the House of Representatives, there are two foshes on either side of the speaking authority. We changed it to the Torch of Liberty instead of the fosh of authority. Okay. So now we're going to start writing. Hitler's challenge to the international system, 1933 to 1936. I choose 1936 because that's kind of where Hitler showcases Germany as this rebuilt, revived, rebirthed nation, and what happens in 1936 to prove it to the world. Nothing to do with military. Nothing to do with arms.
The Olympics.
The Olympics, yes, thank you. The 1936 Olympics are held in Berlin. So,
And Nazi.
yeah, in Nazi Germany, yeah. So, we're going to take a look at how he kind of went from winning the election in 1936, so I'm sorry, 32, 33. And so here are his goals. Destroy the Treaty of Versailles.
No.
Lebensraum.
No.
Living space. Living space. He believes, as a good superioristic Nazi, that the white race of Germany is too hemmed in. It needs to spread out. And the best way to go is east. To the east are the countries of Poland and Russia, Czechoslovakia, mostly Slavic people. And in his belief as of phrenology, the pseudoscience of race, Slavic people are lesser people. So Slavs are Poles, Russians, Ukrainians. He's also got economic self-sufficiency on his mind. How do we do that? We rebuild. We create jobs. Most of the jobs are going to be in, guess what?
Factories.
Factories, building,
Airplanes, tanks,
Submarines.
tanks, planes, submarines,
guns, germs, and steel.
rebuilding the military. Guns and steel. No, well, germs, nah, no germ warfare. And so this will be the Third Reich, the Empire of Germany. It will spread out over the East. He's trying not to be a threat to the West because he doesn't want to go to war with the British and the French again. But if he has to go to war with Russia, well, that's okay. We can handle them. And this quote is from Mein Kampf. His crusade against Judeo-Bolshevism. It's a strange concept, which I guess shouldn't surprise us because it comes from the mind of Adolf Hitler, who's a strange bird. He has sort of combined two things that are unrelated and made them one thing. Judeo-Bolshevism. What's Bolshevism? Communism, yeah. Now, why do these two things not belong together?
Religion.
Because communists are anti-religious. Well, so they really don't go together. So where does he get this idea? One of them comes from the past religious backgrounds of some of the communist leaders. Trotsky was a Jew. I'm not sure about Lenin, but there were Jews who were really non-religious Jews that were in favor of communism because they saw it as a sort of great equalizer. So it's more philosophical for those people than it is religious. But so what does Hitler gain by combining them together?
He can two enemies that he has. He can make the hate one. He can make it easier to hate them all.
Yeah, a bigger monster to hate. It's not just communists. It's not just Jews. It's Judeo-Bolshevism. Wow, these guys have united together into this one super monster that we must fight. Right? So we got to be the superheroes that defeat the super monster, the Judeo-Bolshevism. Because communists, and I spent some time sort of explaining the differences between communism and fascism, they're the opposite ends of the spectrum, right? So we know that they hate each other, for the reasons we've already explained. And of course, what he's not going to tell anybody is that war is going to be required for this. Only his closest advisors and the closest associates know that he plans to go to war at some point. Right now, it's just beating the chest and making it look big and making people feel proud to be German again. Which, the German people have lost a lot of their pride in the post-World War I era. So now they're hoping for a revival of that. So if he is, now here's where I used this phrase before I was on tape, so I'm going to say it again. If you throw a frog into a pot of boiling water, he'll jump out. He instantly knows, wow, this is not good, I'm out of here. But if you put a frog in a pot of water and then turn up the heat slowly until it's boiling, he'll die because he doesn't realize the danger that he's in. So Adolf Hitler is going to turn up the heat on the water until it gets to boiling. By the time anybody realizes, it's going to be too late. Okay? So that includes the German people themselves. He's not going to tell the German people, hey, my number one job is to go to war. They're going to go, what? That didn't turn out so well for us last time. Okay? But if he tells them to rebuild pride in our country, well, sure, we can stand that. And if I tell them that we're going to sort of get back our old borders, well, that makes sense. Sure, we can expand our borders that way. Sure. And if I tell you that our military needs to be strong again to defend ourselves, well, sure, that makes sense. Sure. So all the things that Hitler does sort of make sense in the minds of Germans piece by piece. What they don't realize is where he's taken them ultimately. And by the time he gets there, it's going to make sense to them. Oh yeah, sure, we should probably go to war. there's a great book by William Shirer called The Berlin Diary. William Shirer was an American correspondent living in Berlin in the interwar years. And when Germany did go to war, to start World War II in 1939, he said, because he had been there in 1914 when they went off to war, he said it was a great contrast. In 1914, the trains were leaving and people were throwing flowers and hugs and kisses and everybody's cheering the German army off to war. In 1939, it was completely, serious. Wow, we know what this is about. So it was no cheering, no fanfare, no flowers, no hugs and kisses. It was like, wow, here we go. I hope we do well.
We'll lose again.
Yeah. So I'm going to come back to Hitler in a second. I need to sort of parallel this with other countries, namely Japan and Italy. So those three countries together are known as the Axis powers. And so I'll use that term over and over and over again. Axis comes from a quote by Mussolini. Mussolini, the Italian dictator, said that the world would spin on a Rome, Tokyo, Berlin axis. That's coming. We haven't gotten there yet, but that's sort of where the term comes from. Yeah.
Is Mussolini the government that he sets up, are they okay with religion?
Mussolini?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just ask because Rome is,
Rome's
Rome,
very, yeah.
you
The
know.
Italians are very Catholic, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be wise in where you step, religiously speaking. You don't want to offend people. But if you say, well, Jews, we know they're, if we go to the oldest hatreds, Christians and Jews didn't get along for quite a long time. In the beginning, the first Christians were Jews, and then it expanded beyond Jew. And several books in the Bible that Paul, a Jew, wrote were trying to reconcile Judaism and Christianity. But eventually they parted ways. They just decided, okay, we're going this way, you're going that way. And there developed amongst Christians a strange tradition of hating Jews because they had crucified Jesus. When you look at the story of the crucifixion of Jesus, the Romans have Jesus, but Pilate, the Roman, asks the crowd full of Jews, what should I do with him? And the answer is, crucify him. Well, who said that? It wasn't the Romans that said that. It was the Jews that said that. And they were sort of inspired and taunted and pushed to that by the Jewish leadership, who hated Jesus because he was a challenge to their authority. So this tradition of hating Jews was a religious tradition that really wasn't really founded on the Bible, I would say. Because if you look at the Bible, it doesn't say, yeah, we should hate the Jews. Really, the crucifixion was supposed to happen. That's how God, his plan of saving the world, is the plan of salvation. So why would you hate a group because they crucified Jesus? Nah, it's not really a legitimate claim. Okay, so how did I get on? Oh, you asked about religion.
It was Mussolini, yeah.
Yeah.
So they were religious and they just kind of...
There was religious bigotry in Italy, and you could point at the Jews, but it just wasn't as...
he had to walk the line of overt hatred and, like, we don't really like them.
Right. And I think it's probably one of the reasons that maybe the Italians weren't all in. They're more religious than the Germans.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the Germans, that first chapter you read in that book, The 20th Century World, it compared Germany to Egypt. Germany to Egypt, recall this? And one of the outstanding things about Germany was that they were becoming very secular. They were putting all their emphasis on science and education. And so religion was sort of fading to the background. Whereas in Italy, they're further behind. They're, in that regard, they're not like that. They are very, cross yourselves because you're a Catholic. So I think it's one of the reasons that the Italians are not as fully into fascism as the Germans. Because if you're supposed to love your neighbor, it's kind of weird to hate your neighbor, you know, on purpose. I don't know. That's just kind of my feeling on that. All right. So early Axis aggression. Japan invades Manchuria in 1931.
Boy.
What is Manchuria?
Manchuria is part of China.
Okay.
So you should put that in the notes. The Japanese rename it Manchukuo because it's a Japanese sounding name. And they claim it as theirs. So they've taken over part of China. Why? Because Japan also needs Lebensraum. They believe that they're the superior Asian race. We should put that into the notes. They believe that they are the superior Asian race. Just like the Germans believe that they're the superior white race, or the superior European. So it's their right, sort of like manifest destiny, to take over Asia. And so they start with China to get the natural resources they can use to build up their empire. So they're going to need oil, rubber, iron ore to make steel, to make ships, oil to supply the machinery, rubber for the machinery. So all these things do not exist in Japan. So Japan needs natural resources, so they go to China. The League of Nations said stop.
Wait a minute.
Wait, don't do that. And they thought about using Article 10, but nobody wanted to send troops to China. So, all they could do is say, stop. Or, I will say, stop again. Stop. And Japan ignored the League. In fact, I think they withdrew from the League of Nations. Oh, you don't like? Well, okay, we're out of here. Oh.
Is the league powerless because the U.S. isn't in there?
Good question. Is the League powerless because the United States is not part of it? That probably is part of the reason. If the United States was part of the League of Nations, it could be argued that maybe it would have more sway with what's going on, but I don't know. Yeah.
That's kind of what the United States was trying to avoid from staying out of the League of Nations, right? Was having to send their troops to China when something happened. Or,
Right, so even if we were part of the League, would we have voted to send troops to China?
No.
I'm doubting it. Yeah. The Stimson Doctrine said that the United States would not recognize lands taken through aggression. So we did not recognize Manchukuo. We said it's an occupied part of China. Japan does not own it. What we did not do is put any embargoes on Japan. We kept on selling steel, scrap metal, iron ore, oil to Japan. It's business as usual with Japan.
What was this?
Stimson Doctrine said we would not recognize this invasion. So we don't recognize it, but we'll still do business with it. Which kind of takes the teeth out of it, doesn't it? We're not really taking a hard stand. But it does signal to the Japanese that we don't like their aggression. So the Japanese are going to start to look at the United States as a threat. This is important to understand because 10 years later, what's going to happen? Pearl Harbor. Right now, the Japanese are starting to plan for the future. And their question in their mind is the United States going to become a threat to Japan's imperial ambitions in the Pacific? And if so, how do we deal with it? The best way would be a surprise attack. Get them before they know what's going on.
Wait, so Japan
Yeah.
started to hate the U.S.
Well, they don't hate, they're just...
Or developed a
There's a competition, definitely. Competitive hatred, I guess you might say.
and they developed that because of this.
It was Indochina.
Well, it goes beyond the Stimson Doctrine. I mean, if you look back to the United States and Japan in the Pacific, the United States has been in the Pacific as a player since 1898. Right? That was the Spanish-American War. We took the Philippines, we took Hawaii, we established trade routes with China. So we want to do business in Asia, and we want to do business with Japan, because we see Japan as a up-and-coming power, and they are. But we also see that they're a threat to our power. So there's a competitive power struggle going on in the Pacific between the United States and Japan. That's vitally important to understand that this happened long before Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor is just sort of the sort of tip of the iceberg of what's been going on previous to this. And a lot of historians have evaluated the attack on Pearl Harbor. Was it necessary for Japan to do that? Probably not. It didn't turn out the way they wanted it to turn out. It was sort of the beginning of the end of their empire, right? Because we will go to war with them. So like bad idea.
We have a sleeping giant.
Yes, that's what Yamamoto said. I have woken a sleeping giant.
He was talking about Godzilla, right?
Well, in fact, Godzilla is tied in with the atomic bomb.
The whole movie is like a representation of their fear of nuclear power, is it not?
Yeah, the atomic bomb, I guess. Yeah. Godzilla's a Cold War era movie showing what can happen if you get too much power.
Oh, really? How about Godzilla? Godzilla is my hero. You fought that monster.
1935, Italy invades Ethiopia. Strange target, right?
Yes.
Why would you go to Ethiopia? 2 reasons. Number 1, it's an easy target. The Ethiopian army is no match for the Italian army. The Italian army is not much of an army, by the way, but the Ethiopians are no match for them. Second of all, it's strategically located on the Horn of Africa, near the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. So if you wanted to exert your authority or your power, you could close down the Suez Canal if you wanted to by controlling that part of the Horn of Africa. Okay? So there's a strategic value in Ethiopia, but it's easy to take. And so the Italians might consider this sort of the beginning of their empire. We'll start easy target. By the way, the king of Ethiopia, Haile Selassie, urged the UN, the League of Nations, to do something about it, and the League didn't do anything about it.
Wow, I'm surprised.
All right. Also in that same year, Germany is beginning to remilitarize. And again, we're not talking about the big German army that starts the Blitzkrieg in 1939. This is sort of the very beginnings of that. It's starting out small, and it's just trying to build up just a defensive force, right? Not a big deal. Don't worry about it. It's just a defensive force. So when that began to happen, he was breaking the Treaty of Versailles because they weren't supposed to have a military. So when he began to remilitarize, what do you think the French did about it?
Nothing.
Nothing. The French were like, well, they're only doing it to defend themselves.
17 years ago.
Right. It's been a long time. This is really nothing to worry about. Because that'd be a lot of work, right? What'd you have to do? You'd have to invade Germany and tell them no, or somehow put sanctions on them somehow, or it'd be very difficult to stop them from doing this. So put that in your notes that the French are not enforcing the Treaty of Versailles, and Hitler is getting away with it. This is sort of a side story, but the Axis powers are involved. The Spanish Civil War. The Spanish Civil War. In 1936, a very bloody war breaks out in Spain. There's like 3 sides. It's kind of difficult to have 3 sides in the Civil War, but they're doing it. So how does this involve the Axis powers? One of the sides is the fascist side. There's a fascist Spanish general named Francisco Franco. Francisco Franco is copying Mussolini, and he's copying Adolf Hitler. He wants to rebuild Spain into a powerful nation once again. Remember, Spain was at one time like the Italians, the most powerful nation on the planet. The Spanish Empire was at its height when it controlled Latin America, parts of Asia. It was huge. It was the most powerful planet, a powerful nation. But way back at the time of Elizabeth, there was that whole 1588 thing. You recall what that was?
Oh, Christopher Columbus.
Randy, do you remember that? 1588? Anyone know what happened in 1588? Elizabeth and Philip,
Inquisition.
Oh, was that Francis Drake?
Francis Drake,
Was that that guy?
Stealing of the gold.
stole the gold. Yeah.
And then they
Drake
started,
steals the gold,
they started a war.
starts a war with
Very
Spain.
badly
Philip
for Spain.
sends an invasion force
Hurricane.
known as the Spanish Armada.
Drake set a ship on fire and
And
blows the whole
Drake sets his ships on fire, destroys half the Armada with a fire, and then a hurricane takes care of the rest of it.
Oh, I guess I'm joking.
And so this is the beginning of the end of the Spanish Empire.
What's the
Shared
beginning
that
of
story
calling
So that's
it?
1588 all the way to 1898 when the United States
Moroccan.
destroys the rest of the Spanish Empire by invading the Philippines and Cuba. So since 1898, Spain has not been an empire. So Francisco Franco is trying to renew the greatness of Spain. He won't have a lot of success. He'll win the Spanish Civil War, but he's not going to go on the march and build a new empire. But I just wanted to remind you where Spain had come from and where they were at this point. So in 1936, Francisco Franco asks the Italians and the Germans for help, and they send it in the form of air power. Those new airplanes that the Germans and the Italians are building are going to be flown to Spain and used to bomb Spanish or Axis enemies. So they'll bomb the other side, namely the communists. There are Spanish communists who are being aided by Joseph Stalin, but not with enough military power to make a difference. So in the end, Francisco Franco, with the aid of the fascist Italians and Germans, wins the Spanish Civil War. So make a note of that. I see idle hands or inattention to me and attention on other things. And
What are the
yeah,
Did you mention the other two sides?
communists and
Yeah.
royalists trying to maintain the monarchy.
Okay.
And the side that won was
The fascists.
uh,
Francisco Franco would rule Spain from 1939 to 1975.
That was very
So
recent.
this Spain?
It's a long time, huh?
The Moors.
That's recent,
It is.
so.
From 1939 to 1975.
You were alive when that happened.
I was, yeah. I was 10 years old when he died.
Do you remember anything?
No. I remember Saturday Night Live made fun of it. They had Weekend Update with Chevy Chase. And so they told the story. And to make fun of it, they had Garrett Morris, the only black actor on SNL in the 1970s. He was pretending to be a sign language interpreter. You know how you have sign language for the hard of hearing? So they were making fun of the hard of hearing as well. And so Chevy Chase says on the story, and this to recap tonight's news, Generalissimo Francisco Franco is still dead. And Garrett Morris goes, El Generalissimo Francisco Franco is still dead! And that was how they reported the news to the hard of hearing. So, Saturday Night Live. You're not laughing, but that's the way it goes.
there's a part in there about I guess it's one of the things you need to see for yourself.
Probably. YouTube. Alright, last thing. Axis created 1937. This is when all three powers, Japan, Italy, and Germany, in the midst of the Spanish Civil War, decided, you know what, we have a lot in common. Why don't we sign a pact that we will help each other in case of war? And people always ask, well, did they ever do that?
Hey, I found it.
SNL? Wow.
Randy, what are you doing?
I get the, we'll look at it at the,
Yeah, we're supposed to be taking notes right now.
I don't need this. Bye.
This is a lot of stuff.
So, did they ever help each other? Yes and no. The Germans helped the Italians. The Italians did not help the Germans very much. In fact, they hindered them. That's what John's working on for his HI.
What?
And the
What?
Sabah,
Yes,
What am I doing?
the Italian-German connection.
Oh.
Yeah.
the
Maybe.
Italian job.
The Italian. The Japanese and the Germans never helped each other because they were too far apart. There was one German U-boat that made its way prior to the war to Japan. The war broke out, their submarine was destroyed, and they had to walk home. Talk about a bummer. That's a long walk.
Did he push a plane or anything?
How long?
It took me years to get home.
I would just say somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, what the heck?
You don't recognize this? Have you ever seen this before? Raise your hands if you've seen this painting before.
Let's just use that as an order.
Wow! Do you know what it is? Who the artist is?
Pablo Picasso.
Yes, this is a Picasso. What nationality is Picasso?
Spanish.
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 This is called Guernica. Guernica was a Spanish city that was bombed mercilessly by German bombers and killed thousands of innocent civilians. And this is what the painting represents. The death of all those people, yeah.
I'm assuming my sister didn't know what that meant. So, it's not weird. I thought it looked cool.
But, well, you know, if you like that postmodern
Yeah.
thing, Cubism, is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cubism. You like Cubism. It's supposed to be disturbing. And it is. Here's a map of Japanese aggression.
Wow.
So here's Manchuria. They will spread eventually through the next 10 years from 1931 to 1941. Spread south through most of China and into Vietnam, taking all of these territories. And eventually they'll spread out into the islands of the Pacific. So this is what they controlled in those 10 years prior to the Pearl Harbor. So that's why they're a threat. Okay, going back to so kind of that was all the Axis aggression going on prior or during that time period, 1933 to 1936. So what does he do? Hitler demanded that revisions be made to the Treaty of Versailles. And the revisions seemed reasonable, little by little. And he's not going to make them all at once. He promised, when he was running for office, that he would dismantle the Treaty of Versailles. And so he's going to do it piece by piece. Again, turning up the heat slowly so that nobody realizes what's going on until it's too late. So what does that mean? First thing, Germany, which had been in the 1920s invited, because of that policy of fulfillment with the Weimar Republic, the Germans had been invited to join the League of Nations, and they did. And then he withdrew it from the League of Nations because he made a proposal in the League of Nations that all nations disarm. All the European nations should disarm.
What did you relate
This is a passive-aggressive move. He knows what the answer is going to be.
No.
The answer is going to be no. Well, we're not going to disarm. And so he is playing the sheep in wolf's clothing. I'm sorry, the wolf in sheep's clothing. Get it backwards. Well, all I want is disarmament for all nations. I want peace in Europe. And the obvious answer is no, we're not going to do that. And so he says, well, then fine, we're leaving. So it's a ploy to make himself look good and make them look bad. It's passive aggressive. So hopefully you're writing out in your notes that this is a ploy. That this is not genuine. He is playing the game. And to continue to play the peacemaker, in 1934 he signs a 10-year non-aggression pact with Poland. Hey, we're neighbors. We should never fight. We should never fight. So let's sign a treaty that says we're never going to, no fighting between us. We promise not to fight. Of course, does he mean it? No. What does he hope's going to happen? He's hoping that Poland will believe this and not rearm themselves. That also undermines the French alliance with Poland. We don't need, Poland will say, we don't need France. We've got an agreement with Germany. So we'll leave it off there for now. Thanks for coming.
Hey, but.
Yeah.